So welcome back to HR World Summit once again, and thank you for joining. So we have going to start our next panel discussion. So the last one was very interesting on the employee work system. This one may be more interesting for you because it's about the digital human resource, which is also very close to my work and area. So this panel, so we will focus on the AI and the human complement, how the AI and the human complement each other. We will know about the new technologies on changing the way of recruiting, training. So introduction of the chatbots and HR queries, and the coaching, how we are using into companies, and how we are re-examining the hiring model, how we can enriching our employee experience overall with the use of new technologies such as AIs, AR, VR, and other things. So we have a very nice panelist with us. So we have Vivek Jain, the senior executive VP and head of HR for the Kotak Mahindra Bank. We have MB and Rao, the group head HR for Larsen & Turbo. We have Suma PN. Suma is the director of HR in OS Elevator. And we have Manmeet Sandhu, who is the chief people officer in PhonePe. And we have, lastly, we have Manisha Arora, who is the CHRO of Trident Group. And Manisha will be our moderator for this panel. So over to you, Manisha. So you can lead the panel now.
Thank you so much, Sandhu, and welcome all for this HR World Summit. So, as we all know about our esteemed panel today is Suma, Vivek, Manmeet, and MV and Rao. We will definitely get some fruitful, insights for all of us to actually explore more into us. So, before we start up the sessions, this session is all about what exactly the human resources in terms of the digital era are expected to, and what are the technologies that are supporting to us. So I will not waste much more of time about the introduction of the topic. While I just start with certain questions. First, I would like to have Suma over the board. So let's talk about some strategies that we're actually executing for digitizing human.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this esteemed panel. My pleasure to be here. This is the age of technology. Now, with the pandemic and working through the remote locations, one of the things which has happened is the companies have speeded up the tech support, and the employees' adoption to technology has significantly gone up in the last few months. And compared to the last many years, the changes have been significant for the last 6 months. The technology has significantly impacted the HR practices, the way we communicate or the way we recruit, we do the performance management. Things have changed compared to the earlier days. Data security, which is always a concern area for the HR professionals. So technology is transforming every area of HR function. And with the investment in the HR IT infrastructure, that is the automation tools, cloud solutions, the time for the HR professionals got freed up from the transactional HR. So a lot more time is available with HR to work on productivity aspects, increase the engagement with the employees, or aligning the human side of the organization, which is a positive thing. So overall, I would just classify leveraging technology into four baskets, just general. If HR operations, talent management, L&D, and employee engagement. HR operations, transformation of transactional HR. The entire employee database is available in a single system. The analytics is possible, that is trend charts, graphs are able to be generated for decision-making purpose. The other aspects, the transactional aspects like leave or flexi hours, etc., everything is to the system. And the data is transferred to the payroll. So the payroll process is much more efficient and error-free. And another important element is the shared services. With many organizations going into the shared services model, and the technology is enabling us to do that. So it's a great experience for the employees. They can reach out to somebody if they have a query, and they don't need to wait any time of the day. They can reach out 24/7. The portals are available. So that's a great thing from the HR operations. Now, from the talent management, the recruitment, all the HR professionals will agree that the way we recruited few years back and now it's significantly different, right? So we are able to give a better candidate experience from the time a person applies for the position till the closure happens. One is from the data aspects, which is the resume management or appointment letter generation, etc. Apart from that, how we have enhanced the candidates' effectivity in this process as a great thing. Succession planning, performance management. Now, instead of once a year or twice a year, it's a lot more frequent performance conversations. So the data and the technology is enabling us to do that. Learning and development. Learning and development in this area, I'm sure many of you would agree that the amount of virtual training all of us have done in the last 6 to 7 months, probably we would have not done that much in the previous years, the virtual training. So technology is helping us to do the virtual instructor-led training management, training the people at a scale, analytics, forecasting the learning needs of the people, doing the personalized training. Gone are the days where we put the people into a room and then go through 7 hours or 8 hours of training. Now training is on the go. Micro sessions are available for the people, their mobile phones, any kind of systems. So that's how the technology has changed in L&D space. Employee engagement, real-time platform for measuring the engagement level of the employees. And the data, what we can generate from that is excellent. Now it's pulse surveys, less than 5 minutes for the employees to complete the survey. You're able to get information, executive summaries, the heat maps, the drivers, and a lot more information, including the system is suggesting the action plans for the managers. So when we look at the engagement levels, the way it is done, the way it is measured, it is technology is helping us, and it's gone through a sea change. So simplifying the database management, reporting of the analysis definitely has improved the accuracy and process efficiency. The last, what I would say is, as technology is continuing to evolve, HR professionals' role as a strategic business partner will continue to grow, and then you will see the HR reaching a different level in the next few years' time, and the focus will be a lot more on employee connect and productivity. Thank you.
Absolutely true, Sima. Absolutely true. I would say that somewhere or the other, the last 6 months have accelerated growth in terms of the technological investments, in terms of making sure that the processes are much more automated and less human dependent. So, that insight, we would now move to Manmeet. What are the changes that you're seeing that are happening in data automation and hiring practices in your organization across the kind of connects or networks you have?
Hey, Minakshi, thank you for the opportunity. So PhonePe, as an organization, we are not very old. So a lot of the...
Suma, can I request you to please mute yourself? Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rao, can you just mute yourself?
Right. So I was just saying that I think different from what we have in this group, PhonePe as an organization is not very old. We are about 4 years old from inception. We are about 2,000 people today in terms of full-time employees, and about 6,000 employees on contract who largely help with the sales and distribution part of the structure. And in all of this, being able to leverage technology to manage everything from HR operations to how we look at technology, how we look at recruitment, to even how we think about ongoing engagement and connect between employees is something that's very critical for us. A big area for us has definitely been in terms of recruitment, given the large number of engineers that we had into the organization. We do need to structure the process of hiring in such a manner that we are able to look through a fairly large pool of candidates. We are able to then differentiate not on the basis of any signals such as colleges or education background, but much more on their core capability in coding, in designing, in being able to build large-scale systems. And for that, we've found that being able to leverage technology solutions, multiple ones available today in the market, that help us assess people on their core coding capability as well as their ability to design solutions actually ends up being more useful, because that gives us a much more real sense of the work that they do. And in that process, a couple of things happen. One, we managed to be a lot more inclusive in our hiring practices. We are not limiting ourselves to top colleges or top companies to hire from, but can actually evaluate core capabilities. We also managed to speed up our process a lot more. We are now looking at hundreds of candidates, getting an assessment of how they're doing against these tests, and then being able to quickly put them up onto the next area of competency evaluation that we might need. Of course, in COVID times more than before, these interviews happen frequently remotely, but even in that process, having the ability for engineers as well as the interviewers to be able to share screens, to be able to brainstorm together through whiteboarding, etc., on what might be the right solutions, helps us get to find the candidates who actually understand PhonePe from a systems perspective and are willing to be able to solve problems from an organization perspective. So in that entire process, recruitment for us ends up being much more structured and gives us a much higher conversion ratio in terms of finding candidates that we really need. And so in that way, we've been able to significantly improve the efficiency of our recruitment system simply by relying a lot more on technology as well as on our ability to leverage just vast talent pools for the right solution. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is also how, because we've been using, we now have been also able to manage our data much better, have a better sense of what our funnel looks like, what kind of people are more likely to convert, what particular competencies, if someone does well on, which ones are they therefore likely to be able to kind of cross the overall bar for us as well, then makes it easier for us to evaluate our data, analyze what the information says, and then again make wiser choices in terms of the kind of people who we shortlist and bring on to the conversation stage of the interviewing process. And all of that has therefore kind of helped streamline things for us a lot better. It is, of course, work in progress for us as well. There is a lot more we could be doing. We are in the process of further streamlining the interviewing process itself and how hiring happens. We are looking at, again, using data and AI to be able to give us better results in terms of the leadership competencies and the ones that are likely to fit us better for long-term success for people, both engineers and non-engineers that we hire. And in that process, help get a more holistic perspective on the candidates that we need and are likely to be successful in the organization in the long term. In a similar manner, the other part of it, which I'll quickly talk to you also about, is how in the last few months especially, technology has also helped make sure that we are better able to engage our people. And when I talk about engagement, it's really just about being able to say that if you're working on a project, how much information do you have about it? What level of context do you have on it? And how easy is it for you to reach out to people? For us, being a fairly early stage organization where a lot of the innovation happens because people can walk up to someone else and discuss ideas, and there are hallway conversations that result in value. The COVID period of people working from home has had that disadvantage of not making hallway conversations possible at all. And one of the ways in which technology has helped reduce the effort on that is, again, through just using simple things like Google Meets, which remain available always, So you have an open hangout session with a particular group of people working together on a problem, or having Slack the tool based conversations, which allow a group of people to engage and constantly talk about the problems that they're working on and figure out what the right solutions are, has also helped mitigate to some extent the problems that we would have otherwise had because of this loss of connectivity that people have. Smaller things like mini hacks, hack days, etc., also help in these remote times to create that sense of engagement. But here I would very definitely say that technology is the tool. What we need and what we require is that human connection. And technology, because of the state that it is at, is allowing us to make sure that at least some of that human connection is still maintained as we get to our answers.
Thank you so much for wonderfully addressing this. I completely acknowledge the fact, that people in our offices as well have been missing the human connection. And, when we started resuming back to our offices, everybody was delighted at some point or other, okay, the things are coming back to normal. Although, of course, there are safety precautions that we all need to take upon. But I think so. End of the day, the people that the people genuinely miss coming back to offices. So moving ahead with the session, I would request Mr. Rao to actually help us, guide around what kind of an acceleration during COVID times you had seen in your organization, and how this entire period has been, in terms of digitizing human resources has been for you.
This has been a very, very different period for us because unlike Manmeet, I think PhonePe I keep seeing every day in IPL ad. And I think congratulations for ramping up so fast in 4 years. I think 6,000 people, I think big congratulations. And we are actually L&T Hydrocarbon Engineering. I think let me present the other side of the story. We are actually a pure EPC company. That means we set up hydrocarbon projects. So we have 2,500 engineering staff who work in offices. We have 2,500 construction people who work in sites. You have manufacturing units. You have project management groups working in offices, working in sites, working all over the world. So that is the kind of a talent pool we have. So actually when COVID happened, we are an organization which believes that we all have to come together because the average size of the job is around $300 million. So each job, so there are a lot of people come together to execute on a job together. And we fundamentally believe that coherently working together as a team is very, very vital for us to execute a job of our kind of a nature, which is very complex. And when this happened, COVID-19, whatever, Corona, whatever we call it, and overnight, I think first we were shocked. We were all wondering, I said, are we going to work from home, which we have never done before? We have never worked from home, and we were never used to having this. We all work normally from the offices, from the site, from the places where we work. And I would say that after the shock, there was a little bit of denial. This can't be happening. It may be a 10-day period. We will need to overcome this somehow and get over that. And then it dawned on us, we need to be prepared for a long haul on this particular thing. And I would say that the kind of preparation that we did, which we never used before, we had collaboration software called Teams. And I guess we never used it when we were actually working prior to this lockdown. And suddenly overnight, everybody's digital quotient has gone up significantly higher. The collaboration that was used and the meetings, the kind of actually sharing of the data, the work that was done during that particular kind of a period, I think that was one important thing which we discovered. And then once we overcame a little bit of actually inhibitions with respect to how we can actually work and execute and how we can access many of our systems. And I think we need to tell that we are an 85-year-old company. So naturally what happens with an 85-year-old company is that digital strategy keeps getting made over years. And then sometimes what you did yesterday becomes a millstone around your neck today. So how do you actually undo certain things and how do you actually redo certain things in the way which you need to be doing? That's an integral part of it because digitizing human resources is an ongoing journey. Like what I started with SAP, then you dump SAP, go to PeopleSoft, then you go to SuccessFactors, then you go to Cornerstone. Then how do you move things around and how you make things happen? So that is one side of the story. But after the initial hiccups we had, I think once we got started, then actually I would say I would commend the entire HR team, the IT teams, and the entire fraternity. They showed real adaptability of a significantly, what human beings are capable of, really comes to the fore at this kind of a time. And they really risen up to the occasion. Just to take a few examples. I mean, we didn't realize that we could do our town halls using the collaborative software. We could do that. Once you miss a little deadline, you postpone it for a few days, and then you decide, no, we can't postpone it any further. We just get on with it. So we do a town hall covering around 10,000 people and then do it virtually all over the world. Then we did engagement events covering a whole lot of things using that. We did almost some 300 webinars for our employees to increase the learning space for our people. Then actually the kind of functions which we organized, the kind of learning that was done, the kind of collaboration, the kind of communication, I think we realized that we could do significant portions of our work for various kinds of people. The engineering and the project management groups could do significantly, but there are elements which we have to do physically. I mean, there we couldn't do much about it. There, I think COVID-19 or no COVID-19, you have to go onto the ground and you have to build something. So where the people have to weld, where people have to manufacture things and so on and so forth. Those are the things which took a little backseat for a while. But honestly, on the whole, if you look at it, it has helped us to discover facets which we had, technological angle, which we would have taken a longer time to build that kind of a quotient amongst our people. I think it risen up very overnight, very quickly. And people discovered that we could do more things than what we hitherto thought we could do with respect to that. And more so, I think the real unsung heroes of this entire game was IT staff, the IT network, IT groups of people who actually made it all possible for many people to actually log in, work in different ways, sort out their issues and so on and so forth. Because the technology was always there. Collaborative software was there, the basic things were there, and then many of our things could be accessed. But it was actually the hastening of the process, acceleration which you talked about, to move from A to B. I mean, and that was very significant. And now a company of our kind, which never to believe that work from home is possible or feasible, which even clearly thinks about it, whether a part of our work can be done or a few days in a week for a hybrid model can be adopted. Some people can be adopted and do that kind of a thing. So the entire shift that took place, I think that it was accelerated by the humans, the human resources, the IT, the various functions, the leadership, and actually the large population which has worked during this particular kind of a period. On the whole, it was, I think sometimes a crisis is a too good an opportunity to miss, actually. Sometimes a crisis is such an opportunity, if you have learned something out of that crisis, that certainly helps us in that journey, that we also become, I think, digitally more intelligent and make sure that you can actually deliver more with less and in a lesser time, also in a productive fashion from anywhere it is possible. I think that's something which we have learned, and that's something which I'm sure many others would have learned the same way, and many others must have been actually digitally ready much before, but nobody can ever say they were ready because nobody expected such a thing to happen. But once how quickly you overcame the denial and the shock and got on to the preparation and got on to how do you make the prioritization happen and make sure that we can deliver on that. I think on the whole, it was when we got back to work somewhere in the June with 50% of the population and so on and so forth, I think people started realizing that we can work in a very interdependent fashion with few people from home, people from offices and so on and so forth. On the whole, I would say I would look back, maybe 5 years down the road, we'll look back at this event as a watershed event which significantly changed the way we look at work, the workplace, and the work and how work gets done. I think that's what my take on this subject is, Minakshi.
Thanks, Mr. Rao.
I just want to add something to this, to what Mr. Rao said. Yes, the amount of the stretch, the significant stretch that people have done, whether it is IT or human resources or various other functions. So eventually, when all of us get back to work, in terms of efficiency and productivity, I'm sure it would have gone multi-folds. Because each day is a new learning, and we are getting better and better with the use of technology.
Absolutely. So I think most of us will be able to resonate with the same, that now people are more adaptive towards at least a hybrid model. All of those organizations which had their old mindset, so to say, they have now accelerated their entire the opinions of the people from the old management styles of working have been definitely modified in this regard. So moving ahead with the actual intent of the session, I would proceed with Mr. Jain. So we would want to have your opinion about how HR, artificial intelligence, and human complement each other. so that they can work more effectively and efficiently. Do you see any kind of a changes that are happening in your industry, specifically in banking, where the the digitization in the previous year has been multifold? So we would definitely like to have your insights, Mr. Jain.
Yeah, thank you, Minakshi, and thank you to the forum for inviting me over here. So banks are the biggest data sources in the world. In the future, it is estimated either the banks will become .coms or the .coms will become banks. So, but one will happen definitely. So the amount of data that we have on a continuous basis for crunching, for analysis, a simple thing like a Kotak Securities.com, which was launched around 18 years back. It is a .com, it is a proper .com, and trillions of billions of data moving over the pipe and transactions happening. If we want to sell something else over that pipe, it can be done very easily. So when the new age .coms came, we knew what we were dealing with over here, because finally it is a platform that you are selling out there. Having said that, banks are very regulated. Kotak is a 40,000 employee strength. We are essential services, as you all know, and hence people have to be there on the branches, irrespective of COVID, no COVID. So the BCP planning became very important and critical. But what we saw, there is no level of BCP planning that can take care of what is happening right now. I think a lot of trials, a lot of everything started failing when we got into this mode. And also we are extremely regulated from RBI. So, and you're dealing with actual cash on a continuous basis, the customer cash that you're dealing with on a continuous basis. So there are n number of issues that we got into when the COVID situation happened. I think the employees really took the whole battle from the front. We had our branches opening, despite the fact that the customer trickle was very less in the branches, but still we continued to open the branches on a continuous basis. And also, for example, the contact center. So I'll now get into how what the technology and how we have enabled people. My focus would be more around how we enabled people for productivity. Also, a lot of these things were already there in place, as Mr. Rao also said. We are an old organization, we are a 35-year-old organization, and we were fairly BCP ready also for such situations, because such eventualities may happen, disasters may happen, and hence for example, the contact center of ours, if I take it as an example, now while people go to office, but everybody has a VPN connection, which is a virtual private network connection, and hence while they are in office, they are working through a VPN. And hence that means that if at any moment I want to transition them from office to home, I can just do it seamlessly. There is no new VPNs required at the home. And that is how the infrastructure was created for people. Having said that, and there are many more examples like that, where if there is any eventuality, the customer experience would not fail. That is how the whole design was. Very interestingly, on the IT side, the IT team completely worked from home. You'll be surprised to know the way the whole organization was built, the whole IT infrastructure was built. There was nobody required to go to office while managing the servers and everything which are sitting out of the offices. And keep in mind that bank is a 3-level of firewall that we have. It is, you cannot get into a banking system so easily. There are a lot of firewalls that are there in place. Having said that, we have a very strong analytics team. We have a 80-member analytics team which is sitting, which helps RMs to define. So, for example, earlier the RM which is the customer and what is the product to sell, he used to use his own thought process and derive it. But I think in this COVID times, he's relying more on the analytics team and looking at the data, because he knows that those chances of meeting a customer is limited. And hence he has to look at that input that is coming from the AI piece. So we have these engines which keep working, machine learning through the machine learning method, and they keep on looking at how the customer portfolio is and what is the activity level of the customer. And then they suggest to the RM that these are the type of products that you can position to the customer. So I think the productivity levels, though it dropped initially, but then it again came back because people started using the machine learning, the AI reports that came out. Within HR, I would like to share one of the examples of AI and how it is transforming. And again, though a lot of things have started earlier, but it got accelerated more during this COVID times, was the whole CV shortlisting method. So we have this AI tool which helps you to sort the CVs. Any old organization like ours has the problem of plenty. You put up an ad, and you get 5,000 CVs, 10,000 CVs. You just don't know what to do with them. HR typically spends some 2 days, 3 days, whatever he can go through those CVs, but very difficult to go through all the CVs and look at what is the best. So this is the AI tool. It goes through the machine learning method. It looks at the pattern of how a supervisor is hiring, and it looks at what is the typical profiles historically. So we have to upload 10 to 12 CVs which we have shortlisted earlier or hired earlier, and the machine learns that these are the best profiles that fit into this role. And then out of those 10,000 CVs, it gives me the ranking, number one, of all the CVs that are there, and also it gives me the top 10 possible shortlist that is there. So just imagine the whole work suddenly changes from seeing thousands of CVs or missing an opportunity to get the right candidate, limited to those 10 people that are over there. Similarly, chatbots. So chatbots are there. I think it is there across in all the companies. Anything that HR is lazy to do has been digitized or automated. As HR professional, when we started our careers, we never used to do the time machine. I think today you open the system and all your time machine is taken care of. So I would say that anything we were lazy to do, machines have taken over. There is nothing that the machine has taken over or digitization has happened that we want to do personally as HR professionals. So I'll end at that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jain. It was definitely a lovely example to know about how AI and human complement each other and how that impact on the different productivity levels. So now this question, which I'm going to state now here, is open to all, and I would love to hear all of your experiences given the time in hand. So how do you think that the chatbots are helping human resources become more accessible to employees? So which all of the organizations, we have different our panelists from all different industries. It would be lovely to hear from you all. How have you implemented chatbots in your own organizations or in your previous organizations where you have an experience too?
I'll go and explain, because I think we have been using chatbots both in our shared service centers as well as in human resources. See, one thing that has happened is that what I think Vivek has very rightly said, whatever we are lazy to do, what normally happens is that in an organization where thousands of people keep coming in and thousands of people keep leaving, what happens is the queries are standard. Every person who walks in asks the same question. How do I punch in? How do I mark attendance? Where do I apply for leave? How much leave do I get? And so on. And the usual policies. And any number of times you talk about it and people still come back and say, I'm not getting enough information. And in the past, what used to happen was that a lot of time used to be spent by our HR fraternity everywhere answering the same questions. And usually most young people being asked to do the front-end jobs, and they used to get fed up of this, sick and tired of this. And I think the best thing that has happened is basically about these chatbots, whether be it the bots, whether by email bots or the chat bots or even whatever way you call it. I think standard set of basic ones and more intelligent machine learning is being built into that and significantly reduced. If I actually analyzed it, the number of queries that come on different subjects, averagely per person, the queries and the kind of issues that come about, they come in 4 or 5 major subjects in HR. And those 5 or 6 subjects which we have actually put chatbots on through the shared service center, it has significantly reduced the number of queries that come in. Now we are literally telling the front-end business partners to go out and spend time with the people, go out into the field and be with the people 50% of the time. Because earlier people used to come and ask you a lot of questions, now they're asked a bot. And then you go and figure out what is the way you can connect with the managers, maybe strategically and so on and so forth. So it has certainly helped. And especially the high priority areas or high traffic areas where we found out that it actually pays back for itself also in a significant fashion. And we realized that we need to identify more such slots, because for everything we try to not to have, because for recruitment we have put in our career website a chatbot kind of thing where they can answer queries of future candidates. Then we have put in SSC for all our employees. So in some of those areas we believe that it has freed up our time significantly. And actually, it has helped people to focus on something else, which Suma talked about, and I think Manmeet also talked about. So some of those things we could realize it, because as I've been in HR for quite some time. But I firmly believe what of HR has never changed all these years. How of HR has only changed. You see, HR has always recruited people. HR has always built capabilities. HR has always supported the business. But how part of it has changed over the years from doing it manually, digitizing it, and making it more and more self-service oriented, and making it more quality of decision making, experience to the employees. I think those are the ways how part of it has changed significantly, and chatbots have played a role in it. But I think we still got a long way to go. I think we have just scratched the little surface. We are now got excited about these kind of things, and then we realize that we can find out more and more areas where we can deploy these technologies significantly in the corporation. So that's what my take of this.
Absolutely. I guess the entire cycle of employee experience from hire to retire, everywhere the interventions are happening, so to say.
Wherever, Minakshi, you find traffic, the numbers, queries, I think there is an opportunity for us to actually automate it there.
Absolutely, for Mr. Rao. Absolutely.
I was surprised to see the ease in which you can easily set up a chatbot.
Exactly.
It is a big word, and we wonder what it is, but it hardly takes 2 weeks to set up a chat box, and it runs so smoothly. It is crazy.
So, how would you share your experience about the AR and VR tools that have been deployed at different organizations, and how it impacts productivity levels? Again, this is an open question to the forum. Anybody wants to...
Okay. Let me actually take on this particular thing. It's a very interesting thing. We have tried out VR in some of the very critical areas, because when I think, let me take construction. In construction, we have very, very tricky, complex, unsafe jobs that get taken up. Like, let's say, for example, when we are doing scaffolding, or when we are working in constricted places, or when you are working at heights. And we realize that all these people require just-in-time training. And we have actually created this VR kind of training modules. I suppose you are going to just start the work. We have something called the toolbox talk. And then if these 4 people are going to work on it, and give them that little bit of sensitization right before they start the work, and using the VR tools, so that they can actually get into that kind of a learning and going through that simulation. Okay, how does it feel to get on top of that height? How does it feel to be in a constricted place, where you need to be careful about and what you need to do? And we found out that I think it significantly helps, because any amount of talking sometimes doesn't give you that kind of a feel. I mean, you got to give that. I mean, I experienced, let's say, for example, in gamified, you drive in Ferrari world or something, you drive that, you realize how does it feel to be in a virtual race car. I mean, any amount of talking about it doesn't give you the same kind of a feel. You have to be there and then do that. And then even in virtually, we have used a lot of it in our management learning. We use a lot of the simulation and training, whether it be the leadership development, the agility, and various other kinds of software. We realize the kind of simulation software that is coming up, which could give you a virtual reality kind of a feel, and the in-basket exercises which we use significantly in all our development assessment centers. We realize that there is one level of it is actually creating a virtual reality using your smart glasses and so on and so forth is one level of it. But the other side of it is actually creating a near life experiences by the simulations and the gamifications and the various processes. I think that is another area where we realize that earliest I've seen is actually all the flight simulation centers. I mean, where people learn how to fly and where they actually accumulate hours and face the various kinds of situations. I think that's where we realize virtual reality. It's still very early days, but I think it has got a very, very great amount of scope which we can build it. I think that's my take with respect to the learning and recruiting. And one more interesting area we have learned is that we have museums. We have L&T museums in various places, L&T experience theaters. And these places we have created virtual reality. The one behind me is the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel statue. That is one of the biggest projects which we have done. And then we have got a virtual reality built in for our projects people to do. So, and a variety of new areas which we are figuring out, and then perhaps hopefully that will lead to more amount of scope that we can deploy.
So moving, if you have 5-year-old organization to a 4-year-old organization, Suma, can I request you to mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. So to Manmeet again, Manmeet, what kind of opportunities you see in your organizations which actually create an impact of digitization in the organization in terms of HR, human resources?
So for us, I think, again, like I said, it's 2 parts to it. One is that we are fairly early in our life journey. So on the one hand, there is a lot of opportunity in terms of there's not a lot by way of legacy systems that we have to deal with. The other side of it is that we are dealing in a lot of ways with fundamental issues. And as we are building out these systems, it creates that opportunity for us to do it from that perspective of building digitization into the way we solve problems from day one itself. I think an example of that would be the recent work that we have been doing around our performance management systems and our manager development systems. Not so much from the point of view of providing necessarily trainings that are virtual or any of these other cool stuff that you guys are doing, but more maybe just looking at it in terms of how do we tie in the data that we are getting from one source to support the other side of things. So the performance review process that we just completed, we were careful about making sure that there was a very large amount of data that was captured onto the system, which we are then in a position to be able to subsequently use to look at things like where is it that people, the learning focus needs to be, not just for the employee specifically and not just in terms of their learning needs, but also in terms of how we would think about supporting the managers in building up their capabilities towards supporting their employees going forward. We have been looking very carefully about around even connecting our engagement surveys with information to tie in more closely around what really are the development initiatives and the growth initiatives that we need to develop, so that the attention that people have is much more on creating a holistic environment. For us, digitization in a lot of ways is about connecting the data points and connecting the various parts of the story for the individual so that the whole comes out together. We have, like I said, it's early days, so we've had some success in the way we've been thinking about recruitment. We've seen some early successes in the way we are thinking about manager development as well as performance review systems. We've done some work around engagement surveys and linking that back up into these three processes, but a lot more to be done. Especially, I think some of the areas where we want to definitely be spending a lot more time in developing full-fledged systems is in terms of how we are thinking about employee experience, how we are looking at simplifying the amount of effort that it takes for people to get the information they need from the system without really looking at it bureaucratically. This part of the initiative actually has a lot of it's a huge need for us, a crying need for us on the non-engineering, the sales side of our business, where we have a large workforce of about 1,200 people in terms of our full-time employees and around 6,000 people off roles who don't have computers, who are going to be out in the field and who are going to have to figure out things on the go. And for those individuals, looking at solutions that are much more digital and much more simplified is really one of the big areas of focus for us going forward as we think about our engagement and community building initiatives from a digital perspective.
Thank you so much, Manmeet, for this. So now we will move ahead to our Q&A sessions. We have a couple of questions that are already there. So we would like to start with the first question, which is again back to you, Manmeet. Can management gaming techniques be the new technology for the talent management? Some of the companies are already using it, and do you think so that they'll be reliable in human terms?
Sorry, I want to be able to read the question.
You can just go to the questions as well, where you can see into the chat box.
Just 1 second. Yes, here it is. Can management gaming techniques with the new technology? I do think that is, so we haven't explored it yet. We are still kind of working with making sure that managers get the fundamentals right. But I think there is a lot of opportunity because gaming allows people to, I don't know how many of you have used Duolingo, which I think is one of my favorite apps really, because it takes something which is fairly complex and simplifies it to such an extent that you want to be able to work with it on an ongoing basis and in that process build skills. And I think from that perspective, once we have ensured that your management team, especially the entry-level managers, understand what the expectations are and what is the behavior that they need to demonstrate, then you can very easily tie in both nudges as well as simple gaming techniques into making them do those small little things which maybe they wouldn't really think of as being big deals, but make a big difference in the life of the employee. So yes, definitely, I think there's a bunch of scope in being able to build that out. Definitely as a support mechanism and not the primary way in which people learn how to manage people, but a very, very useful support mechanism.
Thank you so much, Manmeet. I hope whether you would have your answer. So we have another question from Rupesh Shinde, which is, which model is more efficient? It's SaaS-based or it's on-premise based? So I think so, panel would like to add, and then of course I have something to add over here.
No, I mean, we are talking about on-premise systems like the SAPs of the world, or you're talking about the cloud software that we have, which we use. I mean, we realize that I think we have both those things in the companies. We have on-premise systems which were there in the past, and then many of the systems are also going onto the cloud. Thanks to being in the cloud, actually what has happened is that during this COVID period, I think very limited bandwidth which was available in many of the homes, people could actually through the internet, whatever they had, they could access those things. But in fact, more and more as software comes as a service, infrastructure is coming as a service. You don't need so much for the size of the organizations. If the size of the organization is small, and then it can actually tap into the kind of sources which are available in the services that are sold by the various vendors, you can go into those kind of things. But if you are a very big organization with proprietary data and so on and so forth, I think maybe organizations do consider taking on-premise systems and taking in that direction. I mean, that's my small take, maybe, because technology selection and deployment is a big subject by itself, because I'm sure that is how we are actually left with too many legacy systems in the world, because people come with new systems every second day. And how do you actually undo the past and go to the future is a big story for many people who are in companies, actually. You can't just throw away everything and move to the new one,
All right. So I would just add in here. I think so from technology mindset, it's also important to note about what kind of a tool are you ready to use in a vanilla model, where the lesser of the customizations are required. So definitely SaaS would be explored. But if you are thinking something which is very own of your own kind, of course, then the SaaS solutions becomes a trouble. And of course, somebody has to move to the on-premise solutions to make those customizations done. So I think so it's all about scalability. It's about cost. It's about the product type itself. Where you actually want to, where you want to invest and make the best ROI out of it. So moving ahead with this, I think so a lot of people still want to know about, we have talked about the HR services or the things that we have been doing around, in terms of activities, in terms of the different initiatives in the organizations. But yes, how do we make sure that the other people in the organization, where we are actually, we are talking about the performance management, these are all functions of the HR. How do we make sure that the productivity levels, increases because of the transformation of digitization that comes into the place? So I think so. This was of course a long intended question that was raised by Pramod more. But if Suma or Vivek, you can add on to this, it would be really good to hear you all.
Sure, Minakshi, thank you. Yeah, the implementation of any system, just not the HR system, any system in the organization, it requires a huge change management. So that's something which none of us needs to forget. Let me provide an example of Otis. One of the projects we launched in the recent past, it's called My HR, which is the shared services center. And this shared services center is for all of the employees across the business units in India, and then to the other regions also. So what happened in the earlier, any problems, any issues, any transactional aspects, the employees always approach HR, and the HR BPs were available to support them immediately. But now, when we started going to the shared services after the launch, the employees need to go to the shared services. But actually, it is helping the employees because they can get the information they want at the time and place they want. And 24/7, they can get the information or through the portal and various systems. So it's a great employee benefit and program. But then how do you ensure that the people understand this is a benefit for them? So we got to do series and series of orientation sessions, employee experience sessions, and get the buy-in of the employees and make them see, look, this is good for you, and here is going to help you. And from the HR community also, the change management is required because they were doing a lot of things. Suddenly, that chunk of the work is taken away from them, and you got to fill it up with something else. So it's going to take time for the HR BPs to start looking at a strategic standpoint. So the change management process is required for your HR business partners to start looking at it in a much more strategic way, and for the employees to look at the shared services as something which is going to be helpful and easy for them. So this is a small example to show without a good change management process, however good your system is, it will not work. It will not be accepted by the employees. And another thing which I want to tell you is the technology also enables the collaboration, innovation, and flexibility. Now, with cloud computing and communications, it's easier for the employees to collaborate. But again, we got to go to them, we got to teach them, we got to orient them, we got to show it to them, and have the patience to handhold them till they reach that particular point. According to me, with a good change management process, you will be able to bring a significant difference in the way employees look at things and start using the technology.
Yeah, I'd like to. Can I add?
Yeah, so I was just coming to you, Vivek. So, adding just to Suma's point, see that people analytics, have becoming the more important data source, to decisions. So, can you just show your light with just 2 minutes of session?
Yeah, so people analytics, I think, is maturing faster than ever before. I'll give 2-3 examples how we are using people analytics as a tool. So career development, for example, and we did a survey across for people, checking with them. So interest on career development is very high. Everybody wants to focus on career development. We said that when we say career development, what does it mean to you as an employee? And you'll be surprised to know, Minakshi, that the number of people who were clear on this subject was less than 40%. 60% of the respondent came back saying that I don't know what should be my next career move. I think these are the issues that we are grappling over here. And people analytics, when I say it is around capabilities, it is around skills, it is around helping the individual to shape his or her career. I think we used a lot of these things. One of the things that we have used is in terms of baselining the capabilities that is there. And I've said that in one of the CIA forums also, that we will move towards pay for skills versus pay for job. The skills that you are exhibiting, the baselining of that skill will become more and more clearer for everyone. You say communication skills, what is the level that you are operating at as a communication skills? Or we can get into more complex capabilities or competencies. But I think the baselining of these competencies become very important. On the job side, we are very clear of what is the competency required to do that job. But when it comes to individuals, we don't know where they would stack versus each other on that particular capability to do that job. And hence, if I look at the stacking of all the competencies that are required in that particular job to do versus what is the individual's capability and stacking of that, I think if we get into those analytics, we'll be able to come very clearly who is the best fit for the job. And for the individual also, I think he'll be also clearer that can I do this job or not? Today, there is a gap. Obviously, Oracle, we have Oracle SaaS system in our place, and they have a very beautiful model of doing this analytics. There's an internal tool that does this work. It is a SaaS-based model. But I think it is in that mode that it is evolving as one of the examples.
Thank you so much, Vivek. I think so. Suma, you have something to say?
Yeah, so actually, we has a very interesting discussion, right? So this is not only interesting topic, it's a hot topic as well, right? So and you bring all the aspect, right? So impact of the COVID, how it impacting digital transformation part, very good example with chatbots and use of AI, analytics, and how we are changing with the gamifications involving. So very, very good discussion and very interesting. And sorry to jump in here because we have to wrap up as well because we have other panels and keynotes in place. But again, very much thank you. I think it's very good discussion from your side, good sharing and very, very good questions as well, right? So I heard very interesting questions and very common question, which I also get in regular basis. So it's good that you share your perspective, how we are doing in your organization. And it's also good to see in India especially in India, I'm outside India for a long time and see in India is growing too good in this field of digitalization in HR. So this is really amazing and it's a good business case for other countries as well, maybe. So thank you everyone once again for this panel and let's move it to the next topic, which is our keynote by Mr. Vikas Bansal. So we will stay tuned. We will coming up soon with the new keynote, the next keynote. Thank you once again to everyone, all the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.